everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by Quimbee Bar Review. During today's session, we'll be sharing insights from those who have successfully passed the bar exam, including beneficial tips and advice and answers to your questions about the bar prep experience. Our panelists will also be highlighting the features of Quimbee Bar Review, so you can decide if it's the right fit for you. We'll get started here in just a minute to allow time for everybody to join us. But when we do, we'll begin with an introduction from Brenly Pereira, a bar director here at Quimbee, of our panelists that will be answering your questions live, and then we'll dive right into that Q&A. We're going to start with answering many of your questions you all already submitted at registration, but please be sure to submit any additional questions as you have them in the Q&A feature below. And either one of our Quimbee team members who are working in the background here will answer you directly, or we'll try to address it during our live Q&A if we have time. If we don't get to your question, don't worry, we'll provide you with our contact information for you to reach out to us after the webinar. All right, with that, I'm going to flip things over to Brenly, who is going to get our webinar started today. Take it away, Brenly.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for coming. So just wanted to go over a super quick agenda so you know where we're headed during this webinar. Like Emily mentioned, we'll start off with an introduction, first of myself and then of our panelists who are joining us today. And then we'll go straight into the Q&A portion. So like Emily mentioned, we're going to be working primarily off of questions submitted in advance, but if you do have questions during the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature, and we might even cover some at the end if we have time. Okay, so for myself, I am from a small place called Modesto, California. I attended UC Hastings for law school, now called UC Law SF. My favorite class was Crim Pro. I did not like con law, though. I took the California bar exam originally. Since I've moved to UBE state, and I actually just took the UBE last week. So I'm, that's a very, very recent experience for me. I might also jump in with some of my experiences tied in with that as we talk with the panelists today. And speaking of our panelists, we have two panelists, Jonathan J., who attended the University of Arkansas and graduated in 22. He took the UBE. And then we also have Lily N. with us today. She went to Stanford Law School, also graduated in 2022, and she took the California bar. She also has taken the UBE, so kind of similar to me, has gone through both of those experiences. And like I mentioned, but just in case you just joined us, if you have questions that come up while you're, watching this webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature within Zoom to ask those questions. We have a team of Quimbee members working in the background that can answer those questions contemporaneously. We might even get to some live questions if we have time at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's kick it off with the first question. So most of these questions I'll be directing to a specific panelist, but this question I think is really, a case-by-case basis. It's really personal, so I wanted to direct it to both Jonathan and Lily. Let's have Lily start off by telling us, what did your daily schedule look like while you were studying for the bar exam?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Lily, as Brenly told you. So when I first took the California bar, I would say I probably would get up around 9 or 10, I like to study outside of my house. So I would go to a coffee shop or my school library, study for maybe 4 hours or so. And then I would come home, walk my dog, make dinner, go to the gym, stuff like that, and then usually study a couple more hours at night.
Perfect. How about you, Jonathan?
My schedule varied depending on if it was a week that I had my children with me or not. So on a week that I did not have them, my schedule was mostly get up in the morning, get some exercise in, get ready for the day, work until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, take a quick break to eat something, and then study until I couldn't stay focused anymore. On the weeks that I did have my children, it was the same, but with breaks every 10 minutes to deal with children.
Definitely understand that. And I'll just chime in with my own experience too. So the first time I took the bar in California, was just out of law school. So like Lily, I was studying full time. During that time, I wasn't working, didn't have kids, just kind of studied whenever I could, and also did things to take care of myself. But this most recent time, my life is more like Jonathan's. I work full time. I have a toddler, so I understand the every 10-minute breaks. And so this time around, it was more dictated by I just studied whenever I could, right? Whenever I wasn't actively in work meetings or taking care of a family member. Yeah, thank you for your answers on that question. Okay, so for our next question, I'm going to direct this one specifically to Jonathan because I know that you were working while you were studying. How did you manage the balance between working and studying?
Well, the balance was for me a matter of setting priorities while also keeping track of my goals. I was lucky in that I had a job that allowed me to set my own schedule, so I could work around everything else as much as possible. But the reality of being an older student and a parent forced me to oftentimes prioritize work over studying. So it was pretty much just I did the work that was necessary to pay bills, feed kids, everything like that, and just gave up paying for anything fun for a short period of time, and instead used that time to study instead of working extra. And yeah, it's really just you have to do what is necessary, and then you fill in everything else with studying.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I'll just add quickly, we here at Quimbee, and I think you used this one, Jonathan. Did you use our part-time course while you're studying? The one that runs for 6 months?
Nope, I use full time.
Oh, wow, that's super impressive.
Just a crammer.
That's very impressive. So if you are like me or Jonathan and need to be working while you're studying, just know also that we do have a part-time course that runs for 6 months instead of 10 weeks. So that helps with the balance inherently just because you have a lighter per day workload. But I also love what Jonathan said in the first question, which is like you have to be sensitive to your burnout threshold. If you're getting to the point where you can't focus anymore, then that's an indicator to you that you need to take a break, which is important to do when you're managing lots of different responsibilities. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. This one I'm also going to direct towards Jonathan. How did you catch up if you fell behind while you were studying?
So you really only have two options if you fall behind. If you're on the full-time schedule, then just about every minute of every day is already planned out for you. And if you do fall behind, you really have the option of work harder, do more, study longer, which can get you caught up, but also can increase the risk of burnout and not retaining things as well as possible. The other option, and what I had to do, is you have sit down and be very, very honest with yourself about what you are good at and what you are not good at, and then redirect your focus towards, a bar exam course that you didn't take in law school, something where it's going to be learning it from nothing. Whereas if you feel very confident in contracts, maybe you're just brushing up on that because you've only got so much time and you already have a base for that one. So if you've got nothing to go on, you need at least something to help you guess in the multiple choice section.
Yeah, I love that answer. Priorities are key, especially when you are a little bit behind. Okay, and then this one, we're gonna head back to Lily for this question. How is Quimbee uniquely designed to be helpful during bar prep?
Sure. And I think part of the reason that I'm being asked this question is that I did 2 different bar prep courses. So I did Themis when I first took the bar exam, and then I took Quimbee, so I have sort of a comparator. I and probably a lot of the participants use Quimbee as like a study aid while I was in law school. And I found it really helpful. Quimbee has their kind of signature like animated videos that I think are really good learning tools. And I think what Quimbee does really well is just sort of like breaking things down to a very sort of like basic foundational level, which I think like compared to the other the other prep course that I took would get kind of like a little bit too in depth sometimes, where it could feel overwhelming and like details that you really don't need to know for the bar exam. So I think Quimbee is, just really good at like drilling just the fundamental things that you need to do on the bar exam. And then just being kind of like, I think fun is a stretch, but as like not unpleasant as possible as you can get. I guess that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And Lily, we're going to come straight back to you for the next question too. So we get this question from students fairly often. Would you characterize Quimbee Bar Review as kind of a supplement or as a comprehensive bar review course in and of itself?
Yeah, so again, like I said, I sort of use Quimbee as a supplement myself because I just taken the bar and kind of studied full time, and then I was using it while I was working full time. But I did feel like it could totally be a standalone course, and that it really covers everything that you need to know. Like I said, I feel like it kind of is simplified in a way in comparison to Themis, but the bar exam is really not about like knowing everything. It's about sort of knowing enough about all the key topics and really getting those things down. So I think Quimbee will be able to prepare you for that.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, it's definitely designed to be a standalone course, but it's always good to hear somebody who's taken it say that too. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This one we're all going to take a turn in answering. So maybe let's start with Jonathan and then go to Lily. So of all the different parts of studying for the bar and taking the bar itself, retention, multiple choice questions, essays, the performance tests, burnout, testing anxiety, or whatever else you may have struggled with, what did you find to be the most challenging, and how did you address that challenge?
Well, for me, that question answers itself. The essay portion in preparing for the bar exam was the most difficult for me because the rigors of my schedule outside of prepping, I ended up missing every deadline for every essay review. So I had to prepare for it based on other things. And the best thing that I could do in that case, if you don't have feedback from somebody, is reach out to colleagues or fellow students that have already taken the bar exam. If you know anyone, review your prior work in law school to see, what you were doing well, how you remember doing it, what were maybe some of your weak points, and just be confident that you made it through. You just have to repeat it one last time, and then just I reviewed cases to help me really nail down some topics that I knew I would have to write about. Instead of just memorizing key terms, I would actually read opinions.
Okay, Lily, how about you?
I think I have to agree with Jonathan. I really hated the essay portion. And I had friends who felt the same way, where I think being used to like law school exams where I feel like there's an expectation that you know like exactly what the legal rule is, like word for word, as the Supreme Court said it. And it's just not really possible to know that for like every topic that's going to be tested on the bar exam. So it can be really sort of like, I would sometimes feel like I froze up when I got an essay question to practice, because I just like didn't know where to start. I'm like, I don't know the rule. Like, what do I write? So I think it's just like you have to do it and just sort of like start writing what you know to the best of your ability. And I think when I took the bar exam, there was like a sub question or two that I just left blank because I literally didn't know like the topic. It was like something that I didn't take the course on, which is obviously not ideal, but I think the key is to just not panic and sort of push through it. And then I'll also add that burnout is a real thing, especially like most people taking the bar exam. You're coming right out of law school and you want to like celebrate being done with that and relax for a little bit. And it's kind of really mean that they make you take this horrible exam right after. But yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I'll go ahead and answer this one too. So, for me, burnout was definitely a challenge, especially because sometimes, life circumstances prevented me from being able to study for extended periods of time. And it was really easy at that point to feel like, it'd just be easier just to give up and not do it. And we see students struggle with that all the time, especially when they exhaust themselves or, yeah, personal circumstances come in and intervene. And it's this delicate balance of being able to know when you need to tap out. Like if you are so burned out that you're not going to be able to learn anything else that day, then it's not worth it. It's not worth your time and your, mental misery to just sit there and push through it. Because you're not going to get anything out of it. But at the same time, it is also important to be able to have that persistence and to be able to come back at it, kind of like Lily was talking about with essays. Like if you don't know what the rule of law is, you can just panic and decide I'm not going to answer that question at all. Or you can go through the motions, build the structure, be persistent and consistent and do the best that you can. Same thing goes for when, you have to catch up during the bar studying period. You can give up because it's overwhelming, or you can just say, okay, well, what's past is past, but I have this time in front of me. Let me be consistent and keep trying. So for me, that really helped in addressing those challenges, is just continuing to be consistent, even though I knew I wasn't going to be able to be perfect. It's kind of liberating to let go of that expectation of perfection so that you can really just make solid progress. Okay, and that kind of is tied into the next question, which I'd love it if both Lily and Jonathan answered this one as well. So this time, let's start off with Lily and then go to Jonathan. Do you have any tips for self-care during the prep period? Also, this can, go generally to like how to take care of your health, how to make sure you can keep your energy up to the level it needs to be in order to dedicate that much time every day.
Yeah, I think both Brenly and Jonathan sort of made me realize how lucky I was when I was taking the bar exam, that I didn't necessarily feel like I was quite stretched so thin, or that I had to sacrifice so much while I was studying, but it still can be a struggle. And I think it's just sort of getting out of the grind mindset that I think all of us as lawyers and law students kind of buy into to a certain extent, where you can feel like guilty for taking a break when you need to, or like spending time with friends or something. But I think I can't really put it better than friendly, but just sometimes you have to know when you need a break, and sometimes that can be a lot more productive than like pushing yourself to study for another hour when you're not really getting anything out of it and you're just sort of suffering for no reason. And also you deserve to take care of yourself and experience joy even while you're studying for the bar exam.
Jonathan, what about you?
I think the best thing that I can tell people to do is just be kind to yourself. The bar exam is difficult. Preparing for the bar exam is challenging and stressful, and for a lot of people, terrifying. But at no point should you let yourself fall into this negative mindset of I'm behind, or I just need to work more or study harder and everything will be fine. Take care of yourself. Go outside, touch grass, get some sunshine, call a friend or a family member. Do whatever you need to do. Don't forget to eat, sleep, exercise, drink water. All of those things are important. It doesn't matter if you know everything. If you are sick when you take the bar exam, you're going to have a bad time. So just be nice to yourself.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it all in one sentence. Probably everybody on this call, hopefully you have, been able to figure out during law school what works for you in terms of self-care, right? Like for some people it's watching TV, but for other people they don't find that as regenerative. They need to go outside and be in nature or whatever the case may be. So use those tools that you know about yourself to really personalize what you do for yourself. Maybe you really enjoy cooking, or conversely going and having a meal out with some of your friends. There's like a whole universe out there of different things that we could do to be kind to ourselves and help sustain ourselves during the prep period. Don't abandon that just because you're engaging in a time-intensive task. Remember that you're still human during this experience, and still need to rejuvenate yourself every once in a while. Okay. And then this one I'm going to have both Jonathan and Lily answer. So let's start off with Lily and then go to Jonathan. Did you have any favorite features in Quimbee's Bar review course?
Well, as I mentioned before, I really am a fan of the Quimbee videos. They're just, I think, like I said, do a really good job of breaking down subjects and being sort of memorable. And then I also really liked, so after each, like, they have like short subject matter videos, and then it would have like, and I think the law school course is the same, where it has like a little quiz to quiz you on the contents of the last video. And I am someone who needs sort of like that incentive to make sure I'm actually paying attention. So I found that really helpful.
What about you, John?
I actually don't have a different answer. I loved the little videos. For me, because of the time crunch that I was constantly under, it was great to be able to review a topic in bite-sized sections. If I had 10 minutes while I was waiting for a meeting to start, I could go through one. The quizzes at the end, made sure I paid attention, made sure that I actually understood it. And at the same time, they're great for when you want to go back, like in the days leading up to the bar exam. If you are trying to do a practice test and you realize, oh man, I really don't know what this is talking about, it's easy to find that topic, watch a 15-minute video, and feel much better about it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so for the next question, I'm gonna head over to Lily. When should you start studying for the bar?
So I think it is sort of like a personal dependent question about what your situation is. I think the program is laid out pretty well. I think it's 10 weeks if you're doing it full time, or you say 6 months if you're doing it part time. So I think that that's a pretty good benchmark of the kind of time that it'll take. Definitely can't hurt to start now or early, but you obviously don't need to be stressed if you haven't started studying yet. My school was on the trimester system, so I didn't graduate until like mid-June, and didn't really start studying like full-time until after that, which was ended up being like really stressful, and I ended up feeling kind of unprepared. So I would say don't do that if you can help it. But yeah, I think probably like April, May is when most people start studying for the July bar.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, most courses out there that are designed to be a guide for you, they will start, if they have a full-time course, they'll start, like Lily said, usually like early to mid-May. Sometimes they give you access a little bit earlier than that if you do want to be able to start studying even earlier. There are a couple courses out there, ours included, that have part-time options. So Lily said it, but here at Quimbee, we have a 6-month course. But it is definitely dependent on your personal situation. Yeah, like Lily said, if you're not graduating until a little bit later, or if you want to use the part-time course, but you don't want to start quite as early as 6 months ahead of time, that's okay. I think the key is just using a course that does have a calendar for you so you can structure your studies in some way and make sure you're, staying on track. One final thing that I'll say about that is that even if you're planning on studying full time and don't want to start until after graduation, some courses don't offer early access, some courses do. Just, keep that in mind when you're going through your search for a bar review course. Here at Quimbee, we give you access as soon as you sign up, so you could start years early if you wanted, but that's usually not the best option. You should wait until, closer to the bar exam. But that's just something to keep in mind as you're looking for a course. Okay, and then for the next question, I will direct this question to Jonathan. So when you were studying, did you just stick to the daily tasks that were assigned to you throughout the course? And you kind of mentioned a little bit of this in an earlier answer, but did you do any work outside of those assigned tasks to help you with memorization or otherwise with preparation?
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, you can always review your previous work from law school, because it will have hopefully some sort of feedback, even if it might hurt your ego a little bit. And then, there's always case law to really help you look at something and break it down. But outside of that, the things that I found most helpful to kind of lock in the way that things worked was actually, because I didn't take the bar exam until the February following my graduation. I talked to a lot of my friends that graduated at the same time as me that took the July exam and were already practicing attorneys. It takes a little while when you start your attorney career to settle down into a life that exists at all outside of the law. So when all you have are people to talk to that are brand new attorneys, all they have to talk about is what they're doing as brand new attorneys. And it's great because you get to hear what you're studying put into practice. And I think that context can be really helpful for helping you actually remember it as, you know, a tangible real world example.
That's cool. I've never heard that perspective before, but I think that's really valuable. Okay, so for the next question, we will head back over to Lily. Do you have any tips for how to develop effective study habits?
I think it's sort of like what you were saying earlier about how, like with self-care, it's sort of about knowing yourself, and we all kind of probably at this point have figured out what works for us in terms of studying. Like for example, I'm a big like to-do list person and like setting out little goals and checking them off. I'm really into like timers and just like setting like an hour to work and then I can take a break. I know that I learn really well doing like flashcards, like writing them out on note cards, even if I don't like use them again. I think just like writing things out helps me learn things for some reason. So just like don't abandon the skills that you've built over this time. And then a final thing I'll add, and this kind of also goes back to burnout, is just that I tried to study like around other people that were studying, even if we weren't studying together. Like they opened my law school library for us to use over the summer. And I think just like kind of being around other people that were studying gives you a little bit of solidarity and energy and accountability. But if you're somebody that gets like stressed out by other people and or comparing yourself, that might not be helpful. So it's just about knowing yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Know thyself is like that's when students come to us with questions while they're studying, that's always what I say. Like what worked during law school? You should do that same thing. Can be super helpful. Okay, and then our final pre-prepared question, we'll go back to Jonathan. Do you have any tips for small things students can do in the months before they actually start studying, to help prepare themselves for that process?
Yeah, so leading up to when you are going to start studying, that is when you can preemptively establish a support system. If you have anybody that's not going to be studying for the bar exam with you, then make sure that you set up time to talk with them or give them times to call you and remind you that a world exists outside of bar prep. Uh, see if you have family that can send you care packages or just something to help you feel attached to the outside world and remind yourself that there's a reason that you're doing this. And if you have a spouse, have long, serious conversations with them about how much they might hate you in the next few months. But it's only temporary and you'll get through it. And just, I think that's the most helpful thing that I saw from myself and from others.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing I would add to that is just kind of how we talked about, knowing what works for you for self-care and also knowing what works for you for studying. If you haven't figured out that stuff for yourself at this point, like that's okay. Some people it takes their whole lives to figure that stuff out, or they never do. But if you are listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, I don't actually know what helps me relax, or I don't actually know, what works the best for my brain in preparing for a test, take the time before you start studying to kind of experiment with some different stuff. Maybe try writing out some flashcards, like Lily said, if you're prepping for a final, or studying with friends, seeing if talking about things conversationally helps. In terms of self-care, experiment with different stuff, right? Like try watching your favorite movies, see if that helps. Try calling family members to see if that helps. Try exercising, cooking, any new hobbies. those could be helpful to you. It's definitely, yeah, the time before you start preparing, I would discourage you from worrying too much about the material itself, because your later self will deal with that. You don't need to prematurely stress yourself out. But like Jonathan said, building that support structure for yourself will really pay huge dividends during the bar exam process. And, you know, nicely, this will also pay huge dividends during the rest of your life as you start your career and take on new responsibilities. Knowing how to help take care of yourself is going to be really helpful to you throughout your entire life. So yeah, that marks the end of the questions that we had, pre-submitted. We might have a second for some other questions. Before we do, I just wanted to talk for a second about Quimbee Bar Review Plus. So both Jonathan and Lily used this course when they were prepping for the bar. So you heard a little bit about it during the webinar, but essentially our course is, it's built on a practice-based approach. Everything is about trying to engage you in as many active learning tasks as possible, because learning science shows that that is the most effective and also least miserable way to prepare for something as intense as the bar. We also have bar specific videos. Jonathan and Lily both mentioned that, but they are in our signature Quimbee style, but they're specifically for the bar. So very streamlined in terms of what you need to know for the exam. We have many simulated testing experiences, and our Plus course also has unlimited graded essays. So you can make sure you're feeling comfortable with that as you get ready for the bar. And with that, if you're interested in learning anything more about Quimbee Bar Review Plus, you can schedule a free tour online. It's basically just a Zoom meeting where we'll walk you through the course, answer any questions you have. You can scan this QR code to do that. You can also just email us at barprep@quimbee.com. Or if you just want to go ahead and purchase, it's pretty easy to find on our website. Just go to the bar review tab and you will find all that there. And finally, to contact us, like I said, you can email us at barprep@quimbee.com. Whether you have questions that weren't answered today that you want the answer to, or you just have questions about the, bar review process in general, we'd be happy to help with any of that. We will get back to you within 2 business days if so.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenly, Lily, and Jonathan. I think we have enough time here for maybe one more bonus question, if I can kind of summarize some questions we're getting in the chat. We talked a lot, obviously, about bar prep, but not as much about the actual bar exam days. So I'm going to kind of combine some questions, and specifically someone asked, assuming you drink coffee, how else did you keep your energy level and mental levels up? Whether that's for the bar prep process or the actual bar exam days. Do you have any tips to share with anybody on that?
During the bar exam days themselves, the most effective thing that I found I could do, because I had to, and I'm sure most people do, travel to take the bar exam, and you're going to be stuck in a hotel room, which is not a super exciting thing to do in the first place. But each day of the UBE is broken into 2 halves. So in the morning and again in between and after, I would find some alone time, a quiet space where I could kind of get away from everyone else that was freaking out about the bar exam and take a minute to really bring it all together in my mind and build myself back up. Afterwards, in between the sections, I could kind of mentally go over how I felt that I had done things right and what I might try and adjust for the second half of the day. But definitely don't walk away from it and start immediately thinking about all the questions that you didn't know the answer to.
I'll just add that I think this is a really good question because I think like it didn't even occur to me to think about like the physical experience of the bar day. I was thinking more about like what questions will be on it or something, but it's actually really intense and um exhausting. And I remember like Jonathan said, you usually have a lunch break. And I remember one day I was like, I literally just want to go home. And it wasn't even because I felt like I was doing bad, but it's just like hard to sit there for 8 hours for 2 days in a row. But you do get a lunch break, so I think it's good to like plan ahead for something to do, to rest, to get some food or coffee or whatever. But yeah, it is intense, so good part to know.
Awesome. That's super helpful. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I think we're about at time. So I'll wrap up our webinar here. As Brenly said, if you have any other questions, you can email us anytime and we'll respond within 2 business days. You can also click around quimbee.com to learn more on your own time or book one of those one-on-one consultations with our bar directors. And there they can answer your personalized questions or even let you know promotional pricing that's available to you. We will be posting the recording of this webinar on the resources section of quimbee.com and emailing it out to you by early next week. So look out for that if you'd like to watch it back or share it with a friend. We hope you have a great rest of your day and best of luck preparing for the bar exam.